And also, when we talk about the effects, it's also the Gulf states that are going to be, of course, they're going to pay the price as well. So now, UAE president has said that they're prepared to confront threats, as they call it, as Iran attacks continue. How far can the Gulf state go, depending or rely on U.S. for protection and to the time they take action to defend themselves?
Well, I think the Gulf states argued pretty vociferously before this all started. They argued against, tried to convince Trump not to go to war. And their objections were overridden by Trump. And so they reached this situation where, okay, so the United States has this very significant military presence in the Gulf and is committed to defending the states in the Gulf. But the reality of the exchange, for example, with the Iranians is that the United States cannot guarantee their security, by which I mean the United States cannot guarantee their protection from drone and missile attacks. The United States and Israel are on this sort of the wrong side of the cost equation here, which is to say we and the Israelis are shooting these very expensive missiles and interceptors to shoot down relatively cheap drones. And the Iranians have prepared for this over the last several months after the first go-round back in the summer with the Israelis. And they're prepared to ratchet up the pressure on the Gulf states and to force the Gulf states, I think, to sort of question whether the Gulf states want to continue throwing in their lot with the West, which takes the form of these bases in places like the Fifth Fleet in Manama. It's the Al Udeid Air Operations Center. It's the air base in Al Dhafar in the United Arab Emirates. The Kuwaitis as well. All of them have these not prepositioned, but sites that Americans have been using. And I think the Iranians sort of feel these are legitimate targets, which puts political pressure indirectly, of course, on the governments themselves. So it's could be a watershed moment for the United States and the Gulf if this continues on and the Gulf states start to kind of question their participation in the Western/U.S. coalition.
And also, let's also talk about Israel now. So Israel and Lebanon are asking people to evacuate as they will begin their attacks, and actually they have already. How do you assess this move? Is there an attempt of occupation that we see in South Lebanon that they had earlier had to withdraw due to the negotiations that took place?
Well, there has not been a ceasefire in Lebanon. Israel and Hezbollah, supposedly had a ceasefire agreement. But Israel hasn't honored the terms of the ceasefire agreement. They've kept on lobbing missiles and mounting airstrikes into Beirut. They continue to occupy Lebanon. There have been daily ceasefire sort of violations going back for months now. And this is just more of the same from the Israelis, who want to have the whole area of Lebanon basically be a free fire zone for them to be able to, again, do in Beirut what they've done in Gaza, which is to just bomb the living daylights out of the place. They of course claim that what they're doing is going after Hezbollah, and I'm sure that there is a large part of this in which they are going after Hezbollah. But the net effect is going to be that thousands of people are going to be killed. It's going to be, again, a replication of what they've done in Gaza.
Right.
And the question sort of is, so they've been bombing Gaza with no interference for the last 2 years, and has it defeated Hamas? They've turned the place into rubble. They've been bouncing the rubble now for the last 6 to 9 months, but the opponents are still there. So now we look into Lebanon, of course, and we're going to see a replication of the same thing. They're going to be blasting away at the civilian infrastructure, causing great damage. And it's just, this is Israel's way of war, which I think they're also thinking of transferring to Tehran as well. And I regret it extremely that the United States has been dragged along behind them in this approach, which civilians are going to end up paying the price.
Absolutely. Now, of course, we'll have to see how Israel carries that out, because it's not just Lebanon, it's on all fronts that they're carrying out these strikes. But of course, we'll have to wait and see again what's the end goal for U.S. or Israel at this point, because clearly it doesn't seem to be clear. But thank you so much, Professor Russell, for joining us. I always appreciate you coming and giving your opinions.
Thank you for having me, as always.